Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of 12 Summers. This is a podcast made for fathers out there. And 12 Summers is a context for all the men out there who has young children. At times, you might feel like it's a never-ending task between changing diapers, dealing with emotional kid, and running around with different tasks. But the truth is, after talking to many fathers, I realized that we don't really have a lot of time. We have 12 years or 12 summers with our kids before they become the young adult they're meant to be. And we lose that intimate or innocent connection with them. And during these 12 years, and at most 12 years or 12 summers, it is the best opportunity for us to teach them and download them with all the programs to be a good human being. Because if you're like me or many other men, you might remember after a certain age, we just stop listening to our parents and we want to do our own thing, which is also great because that's the path to become a man or a woman that we're supposed to be. But these first 12 years is super important. So that's why we have this podcast. And today on the podcast, we have Kao Lee and Dr. Daniel Hoover. These are my men. These are the men I go to if I want a good stories, good adventures. And if I want to do something, I need some men to say yes. And these are the two men I will go to because they will be always like, fuck, I'm all in. And I'm very excited. I'm very excited to have today's episode because this is going to be the most fun episode ever. We don't even know what we're going to talk about. But this is going to be a fun and deep episode. I know that. And both of them are fathers. Lee is a little bit ahead of us. Hoover and I, we have kids kind of similar age. So today we're just gonna deep into the subjects. How do we use these 12 summers and even talk a little bit about how we grew up and how do we become the kind of father we are today, the kind of man we are today, and how do we deal with this sacred task of being a father, responsibility of being a father. So why don't you two take a few moments to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about who you are, what you do, what's your passion, anything. Yeah.
Age before beauty, bro.
So I'm beautiful again.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm Daniel Hoover, and I live in Lakewood, California, work in Long Beach, California, and I love to play and have fun when I'm not working, and when I'm working, I like to play and have fun, and create an environment of healing. So by my profession is I'm a chiropractor, I'm a licensed acupuncturist, an herbalist, and I practice and teach Tai Chi. So I infuse those together in my work to create an environment where families can get out of pain and into balance. And as it relates to parenting, I believe in a saying that Yinting and Kao and I talk about is how you do one thing is how you do anything. So how I am at work is how I am at home. And that's my introduction.
Well said. And Dr. Hoover is being very humble today. I mean, he's such a great man, has huge impact on his community. He's been teaching Tai Chi, in person and also now online. And he has reaches millions of people with his Tai Chi teaching. And with his background, he's also athlete. He really knows how to take care of the human body, both physical and spiritual forms, and he's really taking care of a lot of people. So I have deep respect for what he does. You know?
Yeah, that is absolutely the most humble I've ever seen him. So since he's so humble, he's got his humble attitude here tonight.
Let's do humble today. Yeah.
Yeah, that's way too humble. I don't know what type of person he's turned into since I've left, since my influence is gone.
Your influence is gone, you know.
Is that why?
Mm-hmm.
But no, let me tell you a little bit more about Dr. Hoover here. No, and it's all true. This is one of my men. Mr. Chu here is one of my other men. I've got a small but powerful circle, and these two especially have changed my life in unmeasurable, unspeakable ways. Because I wouldn't be here in Reno because of 12 summers without these two men. And the reason was, going back to Dr. Hoover here, it was about taking care of priorities. And I've spoken before in various areas about myself being committed. When I commit to something, I can be very disciplined and very good at it. However, I've never realized my priorities. I think we just lost Hoover.
Just lose the image. I mean, he's yeah.
But Dr. Hoover here, we've had many conversations. He worked on my body when I was down there in Long Beach, where I lived pretty close to him. Done a lot of activities with him. Looked to him as a friend, a brother, a mentor, and just a wealth of knowledge. And whatever he says, I just completely respect. And he fixed my body up, and I knew I needed more work. And he told me, when you get to Reno, when you get to where your purpose is, and you got to take care of your body. And he gave me some pointers. And my body's better than it's ever been. And I'm on this path because of him in part, and because of you, Mr. Chu. It was during a leadership training that I learned one of the most important lessons in my life. And that was because of you, the questions you asked, and you being there. And I learned about priorities and purpose. And that's why I'm here in Reno. And partly what I was talking about was the 12 summers, right? My kids were, at that point, 7.5 and 5.5. And down there just didn't feel right. And I just didn't have, I didn't know what the priorities were. And I was just doing me. And when I realized my priority was my kids at this time, because I knew that when they get to teenagers, right, 12 summers, you only have 12 years. And I've already pretty much lost most of that because I didn't have my priorities straight. I was working, when they were 4 and 2, I missed that 1.5 years. I missed that entire 1.5 years because I was working 20 hours a day jobs and night jobs. And that's where my insomnia and my problems and my inability to sleep and just working on 3-4 hours of sleep every day was what I was getting used to. I did that for 2 years, and I just saw them sleeping for that 4 and 2 for like 1.5 years. And that was my biggest regret of my life, was missing those fun 4 and 2 years. And then about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, as you men will remember, I was going through some tough times, and I was trying to figure things out. And with your help and your frog piss in my eye, I got my clarity better. And the rest is history. And that's why I'm here enjoying fishing and just hanging out with my boys and just living the what my purpose and my dream. And I've only got one boy's already 9, another 7. I've only got 3 more summers left, and I'm cherishing this as much as I possibly can. And it's like you said, what you do in one thing is what you do in everything. And my dream is coming true, and it's already true because I have this. So I appreciate you, man, and thank you for having me here. Long introduction, but
love it, man. Lee is before he moved to Reno, we had plenty of chance to be with each other. We do training together, and Lee is one of those men who is not afraid to be unreasonable. The things, the heroic move that I have observed on this man as being just blow my mind away, and he's super disciplined. I remember him like waking up like 4, like working out like every day nonstop, and he just a reasonable guy to himself, not to other people. For other people, he's compassionate, he's in service, he's loving, and your kids are very lucky to have you as a dad, And he's also one of the first men I know who wrote a book. He's a sales trainer. He trains salespeople. He's himself is a top-notch sales guy. So you're also being humble today about, so about letting the world know like how the caliber of man you are. And before, Dr. Hoover hop on the call, we're talking about a little bit our childhood and even our parents' generation, our grandparents' generation, and how it's really different than ours right now. So maybe Lee, would you want to go back to a little bit of a conversation on how you got here, and what was it like for when you grew up in your grandparents' environment, your parents? What was that like for you?
Man, it was. I've always told people I've lived 3 lives. The first one was after the Vietnam War. We were talking about my grandpa, and he had 3 wives at one time. 2 of them passed during the war, and my grandma was the youngest wife. And yeah, they just had a lot of kids, because kids during that time, you need a lot of wives, and you need to have a lot of kids, because just think about this: out of the 4 wives that my grandpa had, he had 18 sons and daughters, and only 4 sons survived, and 5 daughters survived. So just to give you an idea of how rough it was during the war, and even after the war, when the U.S. pulled out, and in '74, and I was born in '79, but my people were running for our lives because we helped out the CIA. And when I was born to when I was about 3, my parents were taking me obviously they were taking me with them while we're running away from the Vietnamese every several months, from one mountain to another mountain. The Vietnamese are coming, so we got to move, we got to go. And my first earliest memory was in the night, we got to get from one mountain to another, and it was torrential rain. It was I remember my little tiny feet walking through the jungle, and you were going up and down. My mom had my brother in the front, and whatever rice and whatever little things that you could carry right there and right then when the Vietnamese were coming, and me in one hand, and we were fleeing for our lives. My dad had already gone forward to get my grandma and grandpa, and that was my first memory. So that was my first life. And if you were lucky, then you made it to the refugee camps, and that's where I was. I grew up in the refugee camps for almost 6 years, and in the refugee camps, it's just barbed wire fence, and every month the United Nations would drop a bag of rice and a bag of dried sardines to ration off to 10,000 refugees that were no flushing toilets, no electricity, no refrigerators, no appliances, nothing. And that's how you lived, caged animals. And that's how I grew up in the refugee camp. That was my second life. But going to the part about parents, because my parents were so loving, and everybody around us were poor. We only had one set of clothes, and most people didn't even have sandals or shoes, even though we were that dirt poor. And I ate sardines every day. If you're lucky, you get to eat one sardine twice a day or so. If you had a small family, like we were talking about, my mom and dad had a small family with just me and my brother and my grandma and grandpa at the time, and all the other brothers and their families were separated. I mean, in various parts in different camps around Thailand. But we had a small family, so we ate dried sardines, and about twice a day, you get a real small fillet. But then you'd have to save all the heads and bones, because the next 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks was good eats, but the next 2 weeks it was fish bone soup. That's how we lived for 6 years in the camps. But since everybody was dirt poor, and because my parents loved me so much, I remember being the happiest I've ever been in the camps. It was only my third life, when we got to America, that I started looking around and going, why the hell am I so freaking poor, right? And all these kids have everything, and we're so poor, and I don't have any clothes. We got to go to Salvation Army to get clothes, or the church would drop a truckload of clothes and everybody free for all. And being called chink and gook and zips and just go back to China. We don't want you here, and just being bullied every freaking day. That was my third life. And that trauma that I was talking about earlier before we got here, that I just rediscovered, was there. And I was able to obviously live my American dream because of my parents, who were forward thinking enough just to have 2 kids, because they didn't want to go to America, have a lot of kids, and then go to America and go, oh my God, we screwed up. So they talked to themselves and they said, let's just have 2 boys for now. We got 2. Let's just wait till we get to America. While all my uncles and aunts were breeding like bunnies, we had the smallest family, and all of my aunts and uncles' families, we had the smallest family, and they used to gang up on us and beat us up and make fun of us for having just 2 little lonely wasps. That's what my uncles and aunts used to say about us. Instead of a colony, we only had 2 lonely wasps in our family. And it was, in hindsight, that my parents were forward thinking. They were the ones that guided us. They were the ones that told us to only speak English to each other so that we could all practice. My uncles and aunts still can't speak English to this day, 30 years later. My mom and dad can speak. They have an accent, obviously, when they came here when they were like almost 30, with 2 boys that are around my age, 9 and 7, my brother and I, with my 2 kids, 9 and 7. And I just can't imagine what they had to go through. No education, no work history, no culture, no language, no anything, no red cents in his pocket, when my dad used to say when he came to America, and he had to take care of his mom and his dad and 2 naughty boys, and accomplish the American dream. And my brother and I always say, man, we better do good, because it'll be pretty damn sad that our dad is going to be more successful than us when he's a doctor, and I've got plenty of training and education, and he's pretty damn successful. So it's all due to my parents, and that's why I'm here, trying to be that example to my kids as well, like my dad was to me, and my grandpa was obviously to my dad. So complete.
Awesome. That's yeah. I actually kind of knew where you came from, but I never got to the details of it. And you really had 3 lives, man. It's
yeah.
Not many people get to live that and experience that, and also you come out to be a really good man for your family and your community. And Dr. Hoover here also has a completely different experience and journey to become the man who he is today. Would you like to talk a little bit about?
Sure.
Okay to share.
My lives, I don't know, I have maybe 2 or 3 lives. The first life was getting adopted when I was 2 years old by my parents, and just the transition to do that was a big deal. And I was able to integrate into my loving family, the Hoovers, because they really just loved me and embraced me unconditionally. I was a little, I don't know, kind of questioning. Like, I thought I was with this family, now I'm with that family. I was taken away from my biological mother because she wasn't fit to have children because of mental health issues. And then, being 2 years old, and now I'm with this other family. So it was a little confusing, and they just were super patient. They loved me up. They explained to me, what was going on. And before I knew it, I think I was at the age of around 4 or so, I just kind of came out of that, and just was like a normal, happy kid. My dad would sit me on his lap every single day, because I'd have a nightmare of my bad mommy, and what he told me is like, in your dreams with one of my favorite superheroes, to just, why don't you just take out that bad mommy in the dream. And one day, this one of my favorite superheroes, took care of this monster. And ever since, I was like freed of that, because I knew when I would wake up, my dad is there and I've got my good mommy there. And that was like my first life, that transition. And then growing up, I just was a kid. I just who I am today, I don't feel as much different than when I was as a kid. I just have more experience. I always played sports. I was active, and the way my parents showed up for me was my dad sacrificed for our family to work the graveyard shift so he could provide. He was a peace officer. He didn't like the job. He hated the job, actually. He couldn't tell us enough about how much he absolutely hated it, but it made it more meaningful that he was willing to go through a job he just despised. The system wasn't rehabilitating these inmates who were juveniles that he thought would have a chance, et cetera, et cetera. And he did that not just to provide food on our table, but what impacted me the most was so that he can come to all of my games, all of my sister's games. Whether he was tired or not, he showed up to every single one of my games, from t-ball to basketball to playing competitive volleyball in high school. And that's something I'll always remember and always appreciate. And he would tell me something. He would tell me, like, you played like crap today. And my feelings would be hurt. I'm like, Dad, you're like my dad. Like, why are you telling me I played like crap? I was hustling out there. He's like, look, son, I'm telling you that you played like crap so that when I tell you played well, you'll believe me. So he would also tell me when I played well, and I would believe him. He always kept it real with me. My mom, she just is just this sweet, loving woman who always gave me the space to be a boy, even though I know it was tough for her because I was a wild boy. So wild that, they had me checked, and I was diagnosed with ADHD in middle school, which was really challenging because I didn't believe in that. I didn't think it was right. And the psychiatrist said that I needed to be medicated, and they put me on Ritalin, and it just didn't feel right to me. And I know my parents believed, and probably still believe, that was the best thing for me, but I felt like a zombie and I wasn't myself, and I didn't think there was something wrong with me. So I personally took on, so I'm so grateful that they did that, because I took on how to reprogram my mind so I could focus. And one of those things that helped me to focus was martial arts. That's when I got into martial arts in middle school. So I started to learn how to meditate. And before they knew it, I got my grades up, and they were like, "Hey, we haven't filled your prescription for Ritalin in a while." And I was like, "Look at these grades, though. Just look at these grades." And they're like, "Well, all right, I guess we can't really say anything about it." And so I got myself off of Ritalin and had a blast in high school. And yeah, that's a couple of my lives right there.
That sounded like a hero's journey you took on, Mr. Hoover. You know, you basically at a young age was able to like learn how to take control of your mind and break through barriers. I don't think I had that strength when I was your age to kind of have the awareness saying, "Hey, I want to reprogram my mind or change my life."
That's just amazing, man.
Yeah.
We have a different word. My parents always said if we were in America, you would have been diagnosed with ADHD for sure. But in the refugee camps, they had a different name for me. They called me the devil. I could not stand still, and every spoon that I see, there's not that many spoons, and the spoons are really frail. I just take it and crack, like I'm the spoon killer. And there's not many spoons in the refugee camps. And if I see any because we don't have electricity, I'll sneak into, because 20 families will be packed in a long barrack warehouse and separated by a blanket or a cloth. Each family, you can stand one side, one corner, one end, and say hi to your cousin all the way down the other side. And so the devil could get into any place, any so-called room, and I find that those lamps, those oil lamps that we would light at night, and I just dump everything. I just go down the list and dump everything and break every spoon. And they called me the devil back there. And yeah, my dad did say we would have diagnosed you for sure with ADHD for sure. If you were here.
I think that's a little bit more than ADHD.
Yeah, I think
probably devil is the right description.
They didn't ever rename you, huh?
They called me Cal, which is yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm grateful that the term ADHD didn't come to my home country, Taiwan, till like many years later, because if that's the case, I would probably label as ADHD also.
Yeah.
You know, and it really got me thinking, because some of my like best friends and my men, they all, like a lot of them share with me, like they all got labeled with ADHD when they were young. And, you know, it really got me thinking about this whole thing. I mean, I think by labeling the kid with ADHD helped the parent cope with the whole situation a little better. It's like, you know, your kid is not a devil. He's just ADHD, because it sounds better. But the solution they came up with is just a chemical interference. You know, I don't know about that, and I'm glad that, you know, like Dr. Hoover here took care of himself. And I talked to other friends. Like one of my friends, what he did was he he will tell his parent he took the medication. He just secretly throw the medication away, or he put it in his mouth and spit it later. But the other side of it is like, hey, this really give me like a picture of like when my son say term become older and have some behavior that I personally don't understand or don't know how to cope with, I'll think about you too. You know, it's like, hey, it's normal and it's okay to go to that extent of kind of, you know, so-called bad behavior or whatever. And if with the right parenting and patience, you know, you guys still come out awesome, man. You know, I think it's important to remember that and never lose sight of that.
My son, my big one, he, the teachers were and the counselor was saying that he may have ADHD, and he was just acting out in school, getting beat up and trying to beat up 4 tall black kids. And of course he got his ass whooped. And yeah, he was going through some tough time there because his attention span is just so bad. My parents said he's exactly like you, but my parents didn't believe in giving drugs, and it's some people may say it's just anecdotal stories about that I was able to come through, and Dr. Hoover was able to come through, but it helps everybody else. But to your point, yes, it made my wife cry all the time. He was about to get expelled from 2 schools. The first one in Cerritos, where I was at, and then the first one when we got here because he didn't have any friends. And it just, my wife was just crying every other week, and he was looking at getting expelled to a different school, and that made it worse. And it just made our jobs harder for sure when your kid goes through that. But I don't believe in that, and I had to, and it was part of my journey here to Reno, right? That I knew it wasn't working there. I knew it wasn't working there. I knew it was going to be harder for me to make whatever moves I had to make for my young son, who was going through the same stuff that my parents would tell stories all the time about me. And it was the best move. And yeah, it was harder, and I had to become a better man so that he could be a better son. And now he's great. His grades are a lot better, almost straight A's now. And I just had to be better, and his grades are better, and he's not getting in trouble and sent home like he used to. So yeah, it's hard, but he's going through it. So,
I'm curious, what's the difference? What's different after you moved? Like what's changed?
Well, number one, I think it was more, my wife and I weren't really good down there. And once we moved here, life got a lot better between us. We communicate more, where it used to be just like, my thing was, oh, you know how wives are. Oh, nothing I can do is ever right. Okay, you want me to discipline my kid, but then I try to discipline him, and you tell me I'm being too hard on him, or you tell me I did it wrong this way and I should have done it that way. And being an alpha male myself, I just go, you know what? If I can't win, then why the hell do I even try? That was kind of my attitude back there, and my attitude changed for the better here. And I'm gonna stick it out whenever I put a discipline that he has to do, and whenever I give him a consequence for something, I just communicate more with him. I just make him realize more that it's okay to have those emotions and those feelings, and sometimes I can't even control it myself, obviously, and I'm a grown ass man, right? And so it's okay for you to have that, but you got to realize that that's not going to make you any friends, and you want friends, right? And just being more communicative, just being more a part of his life, and obviously, you know, being more disciplined myself, and when I put him through a consequence, that I just tell him, you're allowed to do whatever you want, but there's going to be consequences. That's it, you know, and just and stick with my damn consequence, and talk with the wife, because before she wouldn't let me go through my consequence. She'll find a way to, oh, he's been so nice, so I gave it to him. I gave him the iPad, or I gave him some video games, or I gave him some playtime. When no, he's not allowed to play games or be on his phone or anything like that for this period that he's earned that consequence. So that's mainly what's changed. It was just me having to sack up and work harder. So that was it.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, it does. I agree. Like my son is not your son's age yet, but one thing I learned about teaching him discipline, and it's like simple stuff, you know, like the discipline I want him to have is really simple. Like when he wakes up, gives mommy a hug and a kiss and say, I love you. And every day do his exercise, you know, riding bikes or little scooter thing, or go running around. That's his discipline. Like he needs to exercise, and he needs to eat certain food, and also brush his teeth and floss, you know. And it wasn't easy to teach a 2-year-old or 3-year-old to have your teeth brushed or flossed by us still at this point, because he doesn't really do it very well, and also some other simple ones, you know. And what I learned is I really got to be disciplined myself for him to have that. I can't be like flopping around and say, okay, you got to do that and that, you know. Like one example is I being like drinking like a green smoothie, you know, made of like kale, celery. Like,
tell us what you're really drinking. Come on.
Huh?
Tell us what you're really drinking.
Boba milk tea. How do you like that?
That I believe.
Well, it's I can have boba milk tea, but I still need to have my green smoothie, right? That's the thing. So, and once I started doing that, after a month, my wife started like, okay, maybe I'll have a little, because it tastes gross. It has no sugar in there. There's no fruits. It's just all the yucky greens. I call it the smoothie from devil's ass, because it tastes like that.
The devil's juice.
The devil's juice. And of course I would be like, hey, you know, my son is like, do you want one? And of course, the first time I asked him, was like, okay, I'll have some, because he doesn't know. He said yes out of ignorance, right? And so he had some. He's like, holy shit, it's so bad. He's like, don't give that to me. And for a month, he would not touch that. But after I've been drinking that for like maybe 3 months, like one day he's like, can I have some of that? And since that day, he's been having that almost daily, you know.
Wow.
So that's what I learned, you know, like if I want him to have any kind of discipline, you know, I don't discipline him in a sense, you know, but I teach him, I try to instill some discipline in his life.
By being an example?
Yeah.
What it sounds like.
Yeah. So, and I got to be disciplined myself. If I just do it one day out of the week, or do it when I want to, because most of the day I don't want to, you know, it's a lot of work. I gotta wash the veggies, I gotta process it, I gotta clean afterwards. It's a lot of work. And I try to like take ownership of the process, you know, like if I I go shop for the vegetables, and I, process them and clean them. And it's a lot of work, but it pays off, So that's what that's why I got on this
Awesome.
topic.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
At such a young age too. That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that well, Dr. Jordan Peterson, right? I'm sure you all you men know about him, but yeah, the first he did say the first 3-4 years of their lives will determine pretty much everything else. If you can discipline him, or I forgot what word he used, but you can discipline your kid at that age with their, I forgot how he put it, but that's the most important time in a kid's life for how they're going to turn out. And that's amazing that you're able to do that, man.
Yeah. And it does get easier, now he doesn't fight me for brushing teeth and floss. I mean, it used to be like I got to go to war with him, or bribe him with different stuff, and now he just does it, and I think like the language I used wasn't like I don't discipline my kid. I said I instill discipline in his life, because I think when a lot of fathers said I discipline my kid, it becomes I punish my kid, and it's two totally different thing, right? And both of you understand, like punishing someone and giving someone a consequence is two different things, right? I don't want at least from between me and my son and my daughter, I don't want to have that relationships where I give out punishment. Because I think the difference is, and maybe you guys can let me know what's the difference between the two from your point of view. I think when we punish our kid is coming from more of an emotional space or a vendetta, like you piss me off, now I'm gonna make you suffer, or I'm just gonna give you a dose of what you gave me, and I'm gonna make you feel bad. But when we give out a consequence, is we're trying to teach them, for them to become better, and to teach them about like this life. Like Lee, you said it perfectly, right? You can do whatever you want, but just know that there is a consequence that comes with everything, good or bad, right? It can be a good consequence or it can be a bad consequence to you personally.
Yeah, I learned the hard way, because like I said, I've already missed their 4 and 2 when I was out there just working away, trying to make my businesses work and failing badly, and just being stubborn like I always am, and doing whatever it takes 20 hours a day. I remember for a year and a half, and I missed that point, and I was working so hard that I was just letting my wife do all the disciplining or punishing or however she raises my kids, because I was too damn busy. And that's my biggest regret. That's why it was so hard for me, this move here, to get here, and to of course learning from you men, that it was, by the time I started instilling it, they were 7, 8 years old already, and it was so hard to change from how I was raising them when they were at their most impressionable age, 2, 3, 4, 5, and trying to change myself to be able to teach them better, to instill discipline, to instill choices and consequences in them. It was so hard. So you men, with your knowledge and your wisdom right now, I applaud you, and look forward to seeing how your kids turn out. I'm sure they're going to be amazing.
Well, damn you, Hoover. Now I want a boba milk tea. No, you made me go get one afterwards.
Me too. I think I'll have a taro milk tea with some boba, maybe a little grass jelly, a little custard in there too. I like to get the mix. And then you're in Taiwan right now, right, Chu?
Yes, I am.
That's where the boba is cute, huh?
Yes, that's where boba is invented. Do you guys know what boba means?
Bubble? I always thought it was bubble.
No. Well, it's at the beginning it's called bubble milk tea, right? Because when they make it, they shake it, right? So it creates all the bubbles. So that when they invented it, it's called bubble milk tea because after you mix everything in there, you shake it. And they come up with the pearl, the small boba, right? So that's called the pearl. And then later, someone's like, oh, why don't we fucking make the pearl bigger, right? So they make it like a big ones, like the one we drink now. So boba in Mandarin means like woman with super big boobs. So that's why boba, because it comes from the smaller one to the big ones. So boba means huge boobs. So boba means milk tea. Somehow
Booby tea.
Booby
Yes,
tea. Yeah.
yes.
Man, I'm just thinking back, like
booby teas.
how awkward it is when I'll, tell some, female friends that I know, like, hey, boba, I'm just saying, let's get a drink, but they,
Yeah, it's funny as hell. I mean, I don't think about it anymore because it's just like you look at that thing, it's called boba. You don't really think about the boob, but if you go back to the origin, it really means big boobs. Anyway,
so will you clarify then when you said just a little while ago, ever since I brought it up, you want some boba? What did you mean?
Both.
Now I want some too.
Yes. I'll be very happy to see my wife after this interview. So, but if we are able to focus again, because we're all ADHD and if we're able to come back to what we're talking about, and I want to hear what Hoover has to say about, because you had some profound teaching for other men around consequence and punishment, and it this also worked for men, like it doesn't work when we punish each other when we're in a circle and certain behavior is not tolerated and it's toxic, but we don't punish each other because that will become a toxic itself when we have that thing going on and become a bad culture. So anyway, I'll let Mr. Hoover take over.
So the difference between punishment and consequence, I agree with what you're saying. Punishment has an emotional aspect to it. For me, when I think punishment, it's like, I'm upset, you made me upset, you did that, how could you do that? And it's personal. Whereas a consequence is just black and white. Like, all right, you did this, and I guess there's two kinds of consequences. There's the impact of what actually happened. Like, let's say a kid knocked over something and it broke. There's the consequence of that thing is broken and we can no longer use it. And so perhaps the consequence may be, I'm not going to replace that. You broke it, let's fix it. That could be a consequence. So there's some lessons in there. Another consequence may be, we're not going to leave it out in that spot anymore, and you always have to put it away. There's like a lesson. I think the consequence has to be equal to what happened, and there's a lesson involved, so it doesn't necessarily happen again. But for me, the thing I take on as a father, my commitment is to never get angry with my daughter. Because right now my daughter's a toddler, and I believe there's no reason for me to get upset with her. She doesn't know any better. So going back to that example, she knocks something over and breaks it, that's on me. I put it in an environment of a toddler, that's on me. So I just am constantly in a space of looking at lessons for her and for myself. It doesn't do any good to get upset with a toddler or a child. I mean, in a perfect world, right? But you know, ever since she was conceived, my wife and I, it was a very conscious conception. We wanted to bring her in. We were fortunate enough to be in a place in our lives where we did the work. You know, we did our therapies. We did a lot of transformational work. Like, let's bring this in now and do our best. So I'm grateful for one that I was able to consciously choose when to bring in a child. If we brought in a child sooner, we probably would have, you know, punished them a lot. So yeah, I guess that's what I have to say is what I'm creating for my daughter and my son who's on the way is a space where they feel safe, taken care of, and heard. That's what I tell myself every day for both of them and for my wife. And by going back to that, if something happens, it might be irritating. I might even be pissed off because I told her not to do that, like internally, but I can't be mad at her. She's a child. And let's make it a lesson. As for the men, now they damn well better know better. They need to act right. I don't have time for grown men messing up in the circle. So I'm not gonna punish them. What I do, the consequences is a look. You know? And they know. They know that's their consequence. Anyway, that's what I got for you, man.
Yeah, I'm with you, man, and I think we all, even as conscious as we are as of this moment of who we are and how our behavior, we all make mistakes.
Sure.
But I think by having like that awareness, like what you said, you want your children to feel safe, heard. What's the other one?
And taken care of.
Taken care of, right? That just makes such a huge difference. You're basically holding that space for them, and I believe that it will kind of percolate into everything you do around them, and I think that's amazing. I went out with my wife the other night, kind of date night, to have some hot pot, and I noticed.
What does that mean?
Just hot pot. Like it has nothing to do with boba on my wife. So.
All right.
We'll save that for later. And I saw this father with a young daughter. The daughter is sitting in like those like children's seat in the restaurant, and he's feeding her. She's like maybe 2 or 3, and she was like playing with her little feet. So he put, and she has her shoes on, and she put her shoes on her father's like lap, you know, because when he's feeding her, and he didn't like that. So the way he disciplined her was like flip her ear like that. So by the short 30 seconds I was observing them, he probably flipped her ears for like 10 times because she wouldn't stop, because she's a little child and she just wants to feel accepted. She just want to feel it's okay to put my little feet on my father's lap, even
and
with
she's
my
trying
shoes.
to connect with him, you know?
Exactly. And I'm telling you, man, it really, like, it broke my heart. Like, I don't feel like a sadness a lot, but at that moment, like, I can feel like my tears coming out, because like, man, this little girl, like, she's, like you said, she's trying to connect with his dad, nothing else. Her dad, nothing else. Maybe having a little fun, and he just.
What you should have went to his ear.
I almost want to, but I didn't, because I think it will do more damage to the little girl if I do that to her father. Otherwise, I have no problem. Like, dude, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
This is fucking child abuse, you know? And in a way, I'm glad I didn't, because when we finished eating, they also finished eating. And I saw the father holding his daughter's hand walking down the stairs, and he's like, oh, like, be careful, don't fall. And obviously he cared for her. He is not abuser, right? He really loves his daughter, and he cares for her. I'm like, man, if you are feel for your daughter if she fall up the stairs and feel the pain. Like, why the fuck are you okay to flip her little ears within a 30 seconds? You know, and I think he does a lot more of that when I was not watching. You know, like, why are you doing that? And
that's
because obviously you're a caring father.
Yeah, and that's in public. Imagine what he does when he's not in public.
Right. So to me, that doesn't work. You know, like, and we kind of, you know, like, I always look at my wife and the interaction between her and her father. My wife is almost 40 and she still kisses and hugs her father, you know, because I think her father is like Hoover, like, around him, she always feels safe, secure, taken care of her. So she still embrace him like she's a little girl, you know. And so that works, you know, like, and I think we are we both have daughters, right? Me and Dr. Hoover, and we are their first men in their life, right? So that's how they set their baseline, right? So I'm very careful when I'm with my daughter. Like, I'm gonna set a good example because I don't want her to confuse my behavior, my bad behavior, for something that's normal. And when she grow up, she will seek for something familiar or something that feels, maybe she could confuse that's love, right? So I'm like, I don't want her to find a man who like to fucking flip her ears when she does something wrong and be okay with it.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe she'll run into a bad guy, a bad boyfriend that does that, but she's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, that's not fucking normal. You know, I'm gonna go home and tell my brother and tell my dad, and they're gonna come and bring Lee and Hoover to kick your ass. Or she's like, I'm done.
You won't need me if they take Lee. You won't even need me.
I just need you to go there to watch.
Yeah, just come watch.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important to have that awareness, you know. And in a way, it's like dealing son and daughter is obviously different, right? So with daughter it's and son too, you know, it's like extra layer of awareness is important, in my opinion. So
It's good stuff.
So congratulations, Mr. Hoover, for your second kid. What does he do?
Thank you. Very excited.
When's the due date?
August, mid to late August.
Nice.
Yeah, things are coming along. It's a healthy baby boy. The doctor saw the ultrasound, and let's just say she told my wife, it's a boy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and very healthy, and yeah, man, I'm excited. I
got a boba dick.
Boba balls.
Boba balls.
Yeah, man. Couple boba balls.
Yeah.
I love being a parent. It's one of the most amazing things that I couldn't imagine how incredible it can be, and it just keeps getting better and better. And what I'm present to as I co-parent with my wife Veronica, and then we're out with other parents and kids, is just how much we have a choice in the matter of how we show up. So you know, just choosing every day to be present. Like, the thing I'm working on the most is being present. I find it's difficult or it's easy to get distracted with technology. And, you know, I have my own business. So like, oh, well, I can kind of make an excuse. I got to take this call when I'm at home, you know. So that's the main struggle with me, is how to compartmentalize and protect family time. And something I made up recently is I want to be so present with my daughter every day, even if we only have, an hour or whatever, that we create a memory that one of us or both of us will always remember. It doesn't have to be a spectacular one, but it could be as simple as she's sitting in my lap and then she just puts her arm around me and squeezes a little tighter for a moment, or vice versa, So
Tell us more. I'm learning.
Oh.
Give us more examples.
I'm seeing how some of the things she does is to get my attention, and she's like, Daddy, follow me, watch me. One of the cute things she does is she'll be like, Daddy, something's coming, and then she'll have something, or or she'll say, close your eyes. It's always bringing something to me or wants me to follow her. So what I got recently is just like, she just wants me to be there. It doesn't, just whatever it is. And so I just like, all right, she's calling me out. Sometimes she'll be in her own little space, or she'll be in her own little space doing her thing, and we're all coexisting. Her mom's reading a book or cooking dinner or whatever, and I might be, going through stuff. But then it's time, Daddy, I want your attention. And that's what I'm paying attention to, is when is she calling for my attention? And I can put this down and be right there. And she just responds to that. Like, as soon as she sees she has my attention, she loves it. Same for my wife.
You just have to add that in to make yourself feel a little better.
No, I don't feel better. I'm just saying that I got two females that want my attention, and I need to pay attention to that, and I need to take action on it. I'm not saying how well I'm doing.
And you're doing well, man. We know that.
Yeah, he's particularly humble today.
Yeah, I'm surprised. What'd you eat today?
I don't know. Pie or what?
Oh man, I just well, it's weird. Like, to talk about how it's actually going down in my life, it could sound like I'm bragging, or it could sound like it's not true. So I just am always careful in what's the most amount of truth I can say for the audience. Like, I could tell you guys anything, you know what I mean? But I don't want someone to just be like, yeah, right, with him. So I'm fine saying this example or that example about how incredible our marriage is, but a lot of people don't buy it because it's very rare. It's rare that people can actually be happy most of the time and thrive and grow and develop together. We have our challenges, but the thing I learned early on in my relationship with my wife, when we were starting to realize, like, hey, we're life partners, we're going to do this together. For me, one of my indicators I was looking for is, one, is she growth oriented so that we continue to grow together, and then how are we at our worst? How is she at her worst, and how are we at our worst if we have a disagreement? And as long as I can tolerate that, and how we are together at our worst is less bad and doesn't last as long and it's less frequent, then we are healing and we're growing and getting better and better. And I got to see that in our early days, and now we just build on that. And now when people see us, they're like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. And that's possible,
I personally think it's good to have people triggered.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I personally think it's good to have people feel triggered by our conversation. Because
let's trigger them then.
Yeah.
Let's go with the triggers.
Let's go with that. I mean,
all right.
Because our intention wasn't to trigger them.
I love my wife. And guess how my morning started?
Ooh.
All right, back to you, Chu.
Right. And because it gives people a new awareness that this is possible, and there is always room for more better things in life, right? And there's no one way to do things right. Like, go back to Lee's example. Like you said, you missed out on your child's early stage life, and which is true for most of my kids in my generation. Our father were working. My dad was working from 7 a.m. to sometimes midnight. At night, he's a doctor. He just has a busy clinic, and I never get to spend tons of time with him. You know, I have some like moment I remember with my dad, and so was my wife's dad. He's always working, but somehow we all end up having a very good harmonious relationship with our dad, with a lot of respect for what they do. I think especially your son will understand when they grow up, like how fucking hard you worked, and for them, for their family, and they know the strength and discipline it takes to work that hard. They will come back and they're like, holy shit, I can't believe my father did that. How much strength that takes. And so I think it's fucking great. You know, there's no right way to do it. And
there isn't, because I fucked it up every single which way. You know, I wasn't qualified at all. I didn't have any men I trusted. And yeah, I got married very young, at 24. Got married, almost died on my wedding day, had an appendicitis on my wedding day. I don't know if I told you meant that story, but that's another lesson all in and of itself, because let's just say I got married in Vegas and my appendicitis was about to burst. It was about to burst on my fucking wedding day, and I'm sitting there swallowing my puke and crying, and I thought it was butterflies, right? I thought it was butterflies, and I'm like, oh my God, the butterflies fucking hurt. So I'm sitting there, and they're recording. Elvis was singing, and we had the wedding video. And in the wedding video, one of my wife's friends was like, oh, it's so cute, he's crying. Because I'm sitting there on the altar crying and just swallowing my puke as it's coming out. And I just kept on swallowing my puke through the whole thing. As soon as Elvis sang "Love Me Tender," I was gone. I left her, and I kicked down the bathroom door to the hotel. Thank God it was on the same level.
Wait, what about the kiss?
Puked all over the bathtub and passed out in it. And then the next day we were driving back from Vegas on Sunday, driving back to Long Beach, and I was turning green. I was in the back, and she thought I just got too fucked up for my bachelor party, and she was so fucking mad at me. I've never seen a person that mad in my entire life, and I didn't care because I was green, and my appendicitis just bursted right when we got to Long Beach, and I didn't want to go until I turned really green. And my cousin at the time, he was driving us home. He was in the car, and he just had an appendicitis like 2 months before or something like that. So he kind of knew the symptoms and the color. And so he took me to the hospital. As soon as the doctor felt me real quick, he said, "Oh, we got to operate." So needless to say, one of the most important lessons that I learned at that point was sometimes when even to this day, when we get in arguments, she'll say, if she loses or something in an argument, if she'll say, "Fuck you, you asshole. You messed up the best day of my entire life."
You kind of did.
That's how she runs off, right?
So you didn't say, like, did you end up, they say you may kiss the bride. Did you kiss her?
Yes, I kissed her.
With
closed mouth?
With a little puke
obviously
coming out.
Closed mouth.
Okay.
Otherwise, she would have mentioned that too in any of our arguments.
Wow.
But yes, so
there's no comeback for that one.
Lessons I learned
there's
is
no
even
comeback
if it's
for
your
that
fault, even if
But-
it's not your fault, it's your fault.
It's your fault. Yes.
Something that I think's worth pointing out, though, is like the kind of man you are. Like, I don't know another man who could just sit there and take it. Elvis right here singing, you're about to get married and you're just swallowing it and swallowing it and swallowing it. You know what I mean? Like that takes a certain kind of like fortitude to be able to do that.
Well, I did not want to be on America's Funniest Home Video. I'll tell you what. So yes, that was more attributed to just not wanting to be on video because I was being videotaped and it was not going to be good. I was not going to be one of those
My
guys.
battery's going low. 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, man, it was. I applaud you, man, for doing it, for being.
Yeah.
For having men in your lives at the time, and
Yeah, we could bring her in for a quick kiss. Well, I was looking for the charger.
Where else are you running out of battery in life? Because you mentioned how you do one thing is how you do everything.
That's so deep, man. I feel that. You know, all my friendships. I got friends who leave me and they go to Taiwan. And it drains me.
And another guy who took out to Reno.
That's
man, that battery is just, I'm like, yeah, that's the only battery.
Look deeper, man.
Back to my point.
Look deeper. It's too painful to go there, man. I might need some of that. Yeah, I was thinking it would be good to go back to that frog piss you were talking about earlier.
I know.
Can you elaborate on that?
Let's go there.
Yeah, I think it's time. It's time to trigger.
To trigger? Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Frog piss. Just go see Mr. Chu and I was like, what is this? They said, just open your eyes. I was like, okay, here's some frog piss. Ah! What is this? What the fuck is this? Oh, you'll be all right. You'll be all right, man. You'll be all right. Just breathe. And that's another lesson, too. That's another important lesson that night. Oh, my God. Whatever you're going through, just breathe. Just breathe. And that's one of the most important lessons I've ever learned in my life, because that frog piss hurt so bad. It was probably one of the most painful things I've ever felt. But just breathe. Whatever you're going through, just breathe. You got your men there. They got your back. They got one guy's going, that's okay, man. You'll be fine. Just breathe. One man over here just laughing, like Hoover's laughing right now. and you'll be fine. But yeah, just going. You men, I applaud you. You're doing it right. You're seeking out other powerful men. You were qualified when you got married. You're doing it all right with your kids, and I did it all wrong. I'll tell you, the only way I really learned, it seems to be a theme, is just to screw it all up and then put it all back together. And yeah, there's ways to do it, but I don't think there's any one right way. I just know there's a lot of wrong ways for me. And I'm blessed right now. I'm in a good place. I'm blessed. I'm living my dream, my purpose, and I know my priorities. I got my men, and it's good, man.
What I'm getting from what you said, though, is that you found your way. And I really like the saying that it's not greener on the other side of the hill. It's greenest where you water it, you know? And so maybe you had more weeds or something you had to get out, but you just kept taking out the weeds and watering. And, you know, we don't always necessarily find ourselves in the ideal situation. You powered through and you created and recreated what you have today. And I think that's worth acknowledging. A lot of people would have given up.
Oh yeah, there's many a times where I thought I was already beyond my limits, but I kept on finding a new limit and a new limit to my relationship of how much I could bear. And you know, and I applaud you, Hoover, for being able to grow with your wife and to go on that journey. For me, it was the exact opposite. Honestly, it was the exact opposite. I wanted her to grow with me. I wanted to grow with her, but she was just in a different place, and I'm in a different place, and for me, it was exactly the opposite of yours. For me, it was, instead of trying to grow with her and trying to drag her with me, it was more of a space where I didn't need anything from her. That's I didn't need her to tell me she loves me. I didn't need her to contribute to me in any way. I didn't need her to cook for me. I didn't need her to stop drinking with me. I didn't need her to do anything so that I could do something for her and for us. I just had to come from a place that I don't need her, but I'm going to come from the place that I'm going to provide for her. I'm going to be her one and only, no matter what, no matter how, no matter where it goes. I'm going to take care of this family. I'm going to be that mule that's going to put everything on my shoulder. And whether I get any sex, whether I get any love, whether I get anything from her, doesn't matter, because this is my job, this is my duty, this is my purpose. And whether I get my manly needs or not, I really don't care. And when I started coming from that place, then everything got better. So it was rough. I'll tell you what, it was fucking brutal, man. It was lonely a lot of times too. And you know, that's why you men were so important in my life. And I can never thank you enough. And I can never call you my brothers enough, because like you said, weeding, watering, whatever it was, I always said my wife was a blessing to me, because you know, I picture her as, I'm that tree that's just in the wind, and she's that most powerful wind trying to do her best to uproot my damn tree. And my job is to just stay grounded in that ground and not fall over and die and not break. So she's doing her job and I'm doing mine. And it was tough, but now because of that, we're better.
What's interesting about that analogy is it takes that wind to strengthen the tree.
Absolutely.
They didn't experiment like the biodome where they set up the best environment to have a self-sustaining dome of nature, and like the top scientists developed it, and then everything died. And they're like, what the heck? Why did everything die? And they didn't account for the wind. They needed the wind to cause this stress to strengthen everything.
Yeah, and it's the kind of man you are that found the woman you need to help you find your new limit.
She's exactly the woman I need.
That's what you want. That's what you need.
Some people need a breeze. Other people need a hurricane.
Oh yes, and she is that fucking hurricane.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I call her. I literally call her Hurricane Lean. I kid you not. Hey, your boy's still here.
Again,
here, so.
It might not work.
That's the consequence.
It might not work for other people, but it worked for you. So
it worked.
Good for you. Well, I do want to come back to the topic Hoover brought up, because I don't think we're complete with that. And since that's kind of you're a herbalist, and maybe you're most qualified to talk about the frog piss. So the audience might actually benefit from it if they would like to experience what a frog piss is. And how that can,
the frog piss that we're referring to is something called sananga, and it's a a liquid extract with certain herbs in it from the Amazon jungle. It's one of 3 of the warrior medicines that's used with the warriors in the jungle and can be used in initiations. And the way it works is you take a few drops in your eyes, and it's one of the most uncomfortable, painful experiences. Some people say it's like frog piss. It's not exactly frog piss unless someone didn't, they changed the label on me. But what it does is it helps to fortify you as a human being and prepare you to go into battle. And there are some medicinal qualities in that after you're able to regain your vision, you can't really see for at least a minute or longer, because I would describe it as like someone pouring lemon juice in your eyes. You can't see, and it's intense, and how you do one thing is how you do everything. So you really have to just relax and then trust who put it in your eyes. Like, trust the person. That's one thing. And know that it's going to pass. And then on the other side, you're more clear, you're more present, your endorphins are flowing, and it's supposed to make your visual acuity better. And it's just a great way to surrender. One of the things I personally like to do, and it's part of my daily mantra, is embrace discomfort daily. And this is a good practice to move through the discomfort and see what's available on the other side. Chu, what would you add to that?
That's well said. I think,
and it's legal. It's legal, and this particular medicine is non-psychoactive. Just as a side note, not that there's anything wrong with that. Okay, I'm complete. Right,
and you can find it on Etsy or eBay. But I still would warn anyone who wants to try it. Just be careful where you get it from. There's different source, so maybe have your friend try it first before you put it in your own eyes. But what I get from it is like a daily, a mini dosage of suffering is good for the human soul. That's what I believe, and it's, I'm talking about the suffering that really doesn't do harm to your body, but it just gives you this massive sensation of suffering. And
you're really selling it.
Yeah. And but how you deal but how you deal with that is how you deal with everything else, right? And if you can deal with that uncomfort and pain with some calmness and some peace in your mind, and also grace, maybe for some people, then you'll find yourself be able to deal with other shitty things in your life with more grace and peace and calmness. And it's a great way to fortify your soul if you're into that kind of thing. So I personally felt it's a beautiful medicine for the eye. I actually do see better, more clearly afterwards, and I do have a good source of that medicine, or the eye drop, where I know it's made with integrity and with a lot of care, so I won't get any infection or anything, because it's not something you can buy at a pharmacy, So I personally love it. And I think all my buddies or my men that's around me have either heard of it or tried it. Same thing with Hoover. And everyone's response at the beginning is almost like the same, right? Like, what the fuck is that? Like, it's just out of control, because you never, as a grown man, nobody goes through that kind of thing. And we don't. And one thing with men is we're willing to go into battles and fight and have wound inflicted on us, but very seldom are we willing to do that to ourselves. And that's one opportunity, So that's anything to add, any of you?
I would just say really quickly, I wouldn't recommend just going and buying it and trying it yourself per se. I mean, everyone's different. But let me say night night. Come here, baby. Come say hi real quick. Give me a hug.
Yeah.
Who has the cutest daughter?
Come here, baby. Oh.
Oh, hi. Wow.
Hi.
I love your hair. That's so cute.
Hey, Uncle misses you. Uncle misses you.
Hello, Uncle Inting. Saying good night.
It's your uncle's. Say night night.
Night, cutie.
They can't hear you. Night night. Okay. All right, baby. Oh, mwah. Okay. So typically, this medicine is used in a ceremonial space, you know, with some sacred plant medicines, and it isn't always, but I just want to say that if you feel drawn to, you know, doing something like this, participating, do it with someone that you trust, you know, a qualified source and someone who's already done it. I'd hate for some people, they never got it, they went and bought it, and they don't know what's going on. You want to create a safe environment, you know. But it's something else, and trust. There's a lot of trust involved. The thing about Lee that I was really impressed with. So Lee is there's only a handful of badass men that I know, and he's one of them. He trusted Chu and I that first time, and we didn't really tell him much. But you saw how some of us were like going through it. Like, you're like, all right, fine, like, let's go. And you just trusted us, and you went through it.
I distinctly recall, hey, Lee, come here. I said, what's up? Sit down here. Put your head back. And then I said, all right. And then it proceeded. And I said, what the fuck? And then yeah, that was my experience. And it was the perfect experience for me at the time, because I was going through a very hard time at the time. Like you said, suffering. I was suffering at the time, and I was with you men that night because it was a perfect time for it. And that singular experience with the frog piss, that's what I saw, and you alluded to it. It was exactly what that was. It was a little bit of suffering to give you more clarity. And I saw in that moment that I have nothing to worry about, because I have some powerful men who I trust right by me, and they wouldn't do this to me if it would do me some detriment. And that was powerful in and of itself. But then I related to what I was going through, losing my job, not having any clarity of what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go, what the next part of my life was, not having any priorities, and that was suffering in and of itself. And that little experience taught me that, hey, you know what? Everything's going to be okay. I've got men that I can rely on, that I can trust, that would, at the drop of a dime, if I just ask for help, they'll be there. And that's the experience that I got. That's the real experience that I got out of it. And I just breathed through my hardship at the time, and it turned out to be the best thing to happen to me, because I'm here, and I've leveled up more than I've ever thought I could, and I'm in a great place, and that singular lesson was important for it. So thank you, man.
Beautiful. Yeah, you're one of the very few men who didn't ask any question. Just put your head back, close your eyes, and you're one of the very few. I have, people asking questions for 20 minutes, and which is okay. Everyone processes it differently, but you just, yeah. So another name I came up for the eye drop is the fuck it eye drop.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
You just have to say, fuck it. And just like many things in life, That's all you gotta say. Fuck it. I mean,
That's another example of what we talked about, right? What you do in everything is what you do in one thing is how you do in everything. Some men will ask questions and ask questions and ask questions, and some because of that they'll never do it, or it'll take them a long time to do it. And you know, this is the path I've chosen, is that when I have my men and the people that I trust around me, and they say you should do something, I don't ask questions. I just say fuck it.
yeah. And like I said, there's no wrong way to do it. And I think the difference, and there's nothing wrong with asking questions. I think the difference is some men ask question to make a decision, and some men ask question just to satisfy their curious mind and to procrastinate, right? So they'll get all the information they want and need and not taking any action. And some men actually will ask the question so they have a clear yes or no for themselves. It doesn't always need to be a yes, you know. And I use myself as an example. Before I start my podcast, I spent 6 months researching for the best mic and the podcast software and program I need to use. And at some point I realized I was just procrastinating. I thought I was doing researching, but I was just delaying my action to fulfill my purpose. And I did that for 6 months. And many people did it for 3 years, 4 years before they still don't have a podcast. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone's on their own journey. But for whoever that I talk to that want to start a podcast, I always tell them that's what I went through, and you don't have to do that. Just get whatever I have, buy whatever I got, and it's good enough to start a podcast and everything you need. So, yeah, that's what I got.
That's good, man.
You men have anything you want to add to 12 Summers, this episode, and any last thing? We're getting close to closing. I appreciate you men so much for doing this with me. And this is indeed the most fun episode so far.
We could go on forever.
We can. And I we need to do this again for sure.
If we do, I have a suggestion that we each have our own frog piss ready to go, and sometime, or aka Sananga, and sometime during the podcast we drop it in at the same time.
Oh man,
that'll be perfect.
Yes,
that'll be perfect.
I agree.
Yeah, we can do at the beginning to begin the podcast, and for those who don't want to watch,
don't tell them what we did. Like, we just you hit play, you don't say anything, we go
and like where our eyes are like red.
Yeah.
Like we just, but yeah, that'll be good. Okay, the next one will be like that for sure.
Done.
We'll make sure Lee gets some.
Yeah, you're gonna have to send me some.
We'll have to send you.
Well, at least give me the info, and I'll order some.
We'll send you some top shelf Sananga.
Ooh.
Oh man, and we don't try it beforehand, you know, like right then and there, live.
Let's do it.
Well, that's not something you can get practice and get used to it anyway. There's like you just can't get good with that. There's no way.
Yeah.
But
it's encouraging. So I wanted to answer your question, like some closing remarks. I want to just say, you know, I want to acknowledge you, Chu, for doing this podcast. As soon as I heard what 12 Summers was about, I got that context immediately. And it just the title of it and the context is enough. And to really realize that we have a limited amount of time with our children, and not take it lightly. And then like, wow, we really only have up to 12 quality summers. And so I'm feeling very fortunate to be starting off my family right now, and knowing that, you know, some men, right, didn't know that, like how quickly the time goes by. So it's going to have a huge impact on how I raise my children. And just seeing a lot of the men you've been having on your podcast and the different people is it's creating a ripple effect that matters. And I feel very honored to be a part of it, even if I'm on the silly episode.
You know how like silly can go deep and go far,
Sure
especially with men and boys. Yeah, and that's what we do. Fun goes a long way.
Yeah, I'd like to second that notion as well, too. 12 Summers, that, like I told you before, is the whole reason why I'm here in Reno. You know, I saw that my time with my kids was getting very, very close to the end, as far as the quality time to spend with them before they turn into teenagers and want nothing to do with you. You know, I felt that creeping. I felt that pressure for a while. I just didn't know how. I just didn't know. I just couldn't do it at the time. And if I would have had something like this when I was going through that time, my life would have been more enjoyable. That's for sure. I'm making up for lost time, though. I'll tell you what. But this is great for the men. This is great for people out there. This is great for anybody out there. That's a fact. And I applaud you for doing that. You said you were going to do it, and you did it. And it's I listen to as much as I can, and it's all powerful shit, man. And I appreciate you, brother. And it's an honor to be here with these men. It's just good to see you powerful ass men again, man. All right. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love you too, and I, you know, you two are both my examples on being a better man. You know, being a better father. So, thank you very much for doing this with me. You know.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right, I'm gonna hit stop recording.